What is up, everybody? This is Josh back again with another video on Tech and Ish. Today's video is going to be about New Amsterdam. Now, I don't know if you're actually watching this TV show. I've talked to a couple of people and they don't even know what this TV show is about and they've never even heard of it. It did get renewed, so it has an audience, but I just don't think it's that popular. It's basically just about a doctor who goes into New Amsterdam, a hospital, and he's basically changing everything. He's basically doing things for the patients now. He's not doing it for money. He's not doing it just to be the best hospital out there. He's basically doing it for whatever's good for the patient. That's why he's doing it. So that's what this whole thing is about. Now, if you remember from season 1, it left off with a huge cliffhanger. They got in a car accident and you basically don't know what was happening. You see people getting carried away in a stretcher, but you don't know what's going on. Max ends up having a baby with his wife and she actually is having complications, and she ends up giving birth to the baby in their living room with Dr. Bloom. Now, Dr. Bloom, she's been out of the game for quite some time because she had some drug issues. So she ended up going to Max's house to tell him that she is no longer going to be a doctor. But right when she opens the door, he's all bloodied up because of the fact of his wife is basically giving birth. They end up going to an ambulance. They start driving, and then out of nowhere, car accident happens. And that's basically how season 1 ended off. Season 2 picks up right after that. It does go back and forth. That way you can actually see some things. But I'm actually glad that it did pick up right there and then, because it just reels you in. And I'm telling you, this was crazy. It kept on having me guess who died, because they keep on talking about 2 people dying. And they end up bringing out a stretcher. They let you see who that person is. And it ends up not being anybody you know. He's basically just an ambulance driver. And they're basically throwing out little hints that somebody died and it's a female. Now, I'm thinking it's Dr. Sharp because they talk about Dr. Sharp leaving. I'm thinking it's Dr. Bloom because they talk about her and his wife. So there's 3 of them who is possibility that who all died, and you just don't know. And in the beginning, right when you start watching it, it ends up showing Max, and you kind of hear his wife tell him, hey, it's your turn to pick up our baby. So automatically, she's not it. And then it just keeps on going from there, and you're trying to still figure out who it is. Is it Dr. Sharp or is it Dr. Bloom? Now, what I like about this TV show is it kind of makes it seem like what doctors should be doing. Doctors should be caring about their patients. Now, of course, they can only do so much, but in this TV show, these doctors go beyond what I actually thought that they could do. There's a therapist who actually goes beyond what he's supposed to do. And basically everybody in here does an amazing job at what they're supposed to do. Now, if you remember, Max actually had cancer. And if you saw him from season 1, he looked like shit. The chemotherapy was basically just killing him, and you can actually tell it from his face, his acting. He looked like straight up shit. But you see him in this new season, and he's actually looking a lot better. He's looking healthier. He's walking around. He basically looks happy. He looks like a whole new person. You end up seeing a patient who's actually in the emergency room because of her insulin. Now, she starts talking about how insulin used to be somewhere around $20 back in the day, but now it's like $200, which I think is crazy. Now, at the fact that all these medical things are actually continuing to raise their prices all because they just want to make their pockets fatter, I think it's messed up. They should try to actually help people rather than just trying to make their pockets fatter. How much money is enough money? I'm pretty sure they've made so much money and yet they're continuing to want more. So it's like, damn, come on. So you end up seeing Dr. Reynolds. He's trying to have kind of like this intimate moment with his girl. He's video chatting her, but he constantly just keeps on getting interrupted. He ends up having like a doctor come up to him saying that he has an intern that is constantly late, and he's asking permission just to fire him. Dr. Reynolds just say, you know what, go ahead and fire him. I don't care. Do what you got to do. Now, one of my favorite characters in this season is Iggy. He's basically like a therapist or a psychologist. And he's always trying to help people. You can actually always tell that he's always just that one person who you can actually talk to, you can actually open up to. He's always trying to help someone. And I actually thought what he did here was extremely nice. He sees like this homeless person on the floor. He ends up seeing his feet, and they're like just badly beaten. They look bruised up. They're beaten up big time. And it doesn't show it, but it does a little cutscene where he walks away and he ends up being in socks. So you can automatically assume he gave his shoes, the only pair that he had on him, he gave his shoes to that homeless guy, because that's just what these people do in this season. They're always trying to help somebody. So another genuine doctor in here is Dr. Kapoor. He ends up spending time with this one lady who she's continuing to have arthritis. All of the medicine she's having, none of it's working. And he basically makes a bet with her saying, if I can't figure out what's wrong with you or why this medicine isn't working for you, then I will retire by the end of this day. And I thought that it was actually nice that he actually spent the whole day with her just to make sure that she actually could get the results that she was looking for. Now, you remember me saying that there was people who died in that ambulance crash and they end up bringing somebody out. Now, of course, that person is covered up, but when they bring them out, you're basically thinking, who could it be? Are they going to reveal Dr. Bloom or Dr. Sharp? And like I said, it ends up being an ambulance driver, but it looks like it was actually close to one of the nurses that's there. I don't know if that was either a friend, a family member, or maybe it was his partner. I don't know. But you can actually tell that it actually hit him pretty hard, that he's not the same throughout this episode. Now you end up seeing Dr. Kapoor basically running a lot of lab tests. You see him going to this guy who's running so many tests on his computer, and every single one ends up failing. But he doesn't quit, which is something that I actually admire about this guy. He just keeps on going until he can actually find out what's going on with this patient. So you remember the intern that Dr. Reynolds said basically get rid of? Well, Dr. Reynolds is performing a surgery, and that intern just comes into the OR. Of course, he's not actually in it. He's basically somewhere on top where he can actually talk to him over the mic. And he's basically telling him that he's making a huge mistake because this intern is probably top 5 of this class, and if the only reason why this doctor can't find him is because he's somewhere in the hospital trying to read a book so he can actually further his knowledge. So he's basically telling him, you're making a big mistake of firing me because I'm going to be the best doctor you know, and one day I'm going to take your spot. I was like, man, this dude is he's talking a lot of shit. But he better back it up. Now, as you remember, the insulin costs so much, and this patient basically can't afford them. Max ends up putting the corporation on blast, saying that all they're caring about is money. So what they're going to do is they're going to start getting their medicine from Canada until that corporation drops the prices. And I don't know if this is going to be a good deal or a bad deal for him, but it makes him seem like he actually cares, though. Now, as Max goes back into the hospital, he ends up running into a familiar face, and it's Dr. Sharp. Now, since it is Dr. Sharp, now you're basically thinking maybe it's Dr. Bloom. And I'm not going to tell you yet, but keep on watching. Now, it ends up going to a flashback, and you end up seeing Dr. Bloom on a hospital bed, and she has no pulse. They're basically trying to get her heart back up, but it doesn't seem like it's working, and that's kind of like where it just jumps to another clip. So now you may be thinking it's Dr. Bloom. Now, this scene was actually very emotional. Dr. Iggy ends up talking to one of the kids that he basically helps out, and he's trying to have that kid open up. That kid ends up saying that the reason why he acts the way he acts is because his mother never pays attention to him. So he ends up acting bad just so his mom can actually notice him. And you end up seeing Iggy actually crying. And I thought he was kind of like playing around, but he was actually being serious. What this kid was actually telling him hurt him a lot. And he was proud of him because he was actually able to open up and try to heal whatever wounds he has. So that intern that was talking a lot of smack to Dr. Reynolds, Dr. Reynolds ends up bumping into him in the locker room. Or not necessarily bumping into him. Basically, he goes to the locker room and he sees him there. and he tells him how his struggle was to becoming the best doctor that he can be right now. So he's basically letting the kid stay for now, but Dr. Reynolds is going to keep a close eye on him because he expects nothing but great things to hear from this intern, since he wants to talk a lot of shit about it. Now, Max ends up bumping into this one doctor, and it looks like there's some confrontation there. And it makes me think maybe the reason why Max is like this is because he's pissed off that maybe this doctor let Dr. Bloom die. So that's kind of where my mind was going. Maybe that's where yours is going too, but let's just keep in tune and see what's going on. Now you end up seeing the scene where Dr. Bloom is basically on that bed and she doesn't have no heartbeat. They're basically trying whatever they can. They end up sticking a syringe in her. I'm not too sure why, because I'm not a doctor. So they end up sticking a syringe in her and she's flatlining. You don't hear nothing. And then all of a sudden you hear her heartbeat and she's walking right into the hospital. So I'm wondering, who the hell died then? I mean, if it wasn't Dr. Sharp, it wasn't his wife, because she was in the beginning of the episode. She basically was holding the daughter, singing. I mean, he was happy. So it wasn't his wife, it wasn't Dr. Sharp, it wasn't Dr. Bloom. Who the hell else was it? Now, after all this time that Dr. Kapoor was spending with this lady, he ends up coming to a crossroad where he doesn't know what else to do. He's walking back and forth. He can't think of another thing, and it ends up going into where she needs floss for her teeth because food is stuck in there. She ends up saying she doesn't even floss, that she doesn't even see the dentist. Automatically, a light bulb comes off in his head, of course, and he ends up examining her teeth, and it turns out the reason why her medicine isn't working is because she has an infected tooth. That was my understanding. She has an infected tooth, and all that medicine is going towards killing the bacteria from that tooth, and it's not going towards her arthritis. So it's basically, the whole thing started is because she doesn't go see a dentist and her tooth is all messed up. So he basically figured it out. So it's the end of the episode. We're finally here, and I still don't know who died. Towards the very end, I don't know who died. Max ends up going home. He has his baby with him. I guess he ends up just taking her to work because there's a daycare there. He ends up walking in and his wife is on the bed asleep. The baby starts crying again and you hear her say, "It's your turn." And he replies with, "It's always my turn." He ends up getting up and then it goes to another flashback. Now this is where it basically like tripped me out. Max ends up running into the operating room, and you remember that doctor that he was pissed off at? The reason why he was pissed off at that doctor is because he was the doctor who was trying to save his wife's life, and he couldn't do it. So this whole time that you end up seeing Max's wife, it ends up all being in his head. You know, he's singing to his daughter, and you end up seeing the wife, so it kind of seems like she's there with him, but only in spirit. So you end up seeing Max and his wife, they're basically singing to their daughter, but then once he gets up and gets up off the bed, he passes her, or, you know, like the image just passes her, and she's gone. So in reality, the person who actually died was his wife. And that's basically where it ended. Now, I couldn't believe how they actually played this. It was amazing, but it's also sad. Now, I can't wait until episode 2 comes out. I don't know what they're going to do, but I'm definitely going to tune in. And I'll also review it on this channel. So if you like what you see, let me know in the comments. Like it, subscribe to my channel. Let me know how I'm doing. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.